Welcome, gents. The moment you stop expecting rescue is the moment you start building real strength. Sigma males don't live in a fantasy, they don't wait for backup, they don't sit around hoping someone will step in and fix the mess. They know, deep in their bones, that no one's coming. Not because people don't care, but because life doesn't hand out safety nets just because you're struggling. That understanding hits hard. But instead of letting it break them, it wakes them up. This is what separates Sigma males from the rest. They don't wait to be chosen, they choose themselves. They don't chase approval or ask permission to rise. They just start climbing, quietly, deliberately, without hand-holding and without applause. It's not that they don't feel pain or doubt. It's that they've learned how to move through it without needing validation. They've faced the hard moments, the ones where everything feels too heavy, and no one is around to help carry it. And instead of drowning, they learned how to swim with their own weight. That's why they walk the way they do. Not loud, not flashy, but with a kind of quiet intensity that can't be faked. So if this sounds like you, understand this. You're not alone in your solitude. You're not broken because you don't lean on others. You're rare because you've built a life that doesn't depend on being saved. Keep building, keep showing up, because the world may not save you, but you were never built to be saved. You were built to survive, and then win. Let's begin, gents. Number one, they understand people will leave when it's inconvenient. Sigma males learned early on that people don't always stay. They might say the right things, show up when it's easy, and even swear they've got your back. But when the pressure rises, when the road gets uncomfortable, many of those same people quietly disappear. And Sigma males stopped being surprised by that a long time ago. They no longer treat loyalty as something permanent. They treat it as a variable, something real in the moment, but not guaranteed in the long run. They don't base their emotional stability on who claps for them today because they've seen how fast those claps turn to silence. This doesn't mean they walk around bitter or closed off. It means they plan smarter. They prepare for the possibility that even the most trusted faces might turn away when things stop being easy. Not out of paranoia, but out of pattern recognition. They've been in those moments where everything felt like it was falling apart, and suddenly the calls stopped, the support dried up, the check-ins turned into, "I've been busy." And what saved them wasn't someone swooping in, it was their own mental endurance. So now they build with the awareness that people are allowed to leave. They don't beg for permanence, they don't chase presence. They let people come and go without trying to force connection. Because Sigma males aren't holding anyone hostage with expectations. Instead, they invest in themselves first. They anchor their peace in routines, not people. They build a structure that still stands even if every guest walks out. That calm detachment, that's earned. That's what happens when you stop depending on borrowed loyalty and start designing your own emotional shelter. People may leave, but a Sigma male never lets their absence dismantle the life he's been quietly building all along. Number two, they trust action, not reassurance. Sigma males have learned something most people never figure out. They know that words can sound beautiful and still mean absolutely nothing. Reassurance might comfort others for a moment, but to the Sigma, it's just noise if it doesn't come with action behind it. Compliments, promises, apologies, none of it matters unless it's backed by real effort. They don't care about what someone says they'll do, they care about what actually gets done. That's because they've been let down enough to see the pattern. They've heard, "I've got your back," from people who disappeared the moment things got hard. They've heard, "Trust me," from people who couldn't even trust themselves. And they've watched 100 empty promises float into the wind without anything to show for it, so now they move differently. They've stopped asking people to prove themselves. They just watch. They've stopped chasing clarity through words and started finding it through behavior. This is why Sigma males seem distant sometimes. Not because they don't feel, but because they've trained themselves to wait for the real evidence before they invest. But this mindset doesn't stop at other people, it starts with themselves. They hold themselves to that same standard. They don't give themselves credit just for thinking big. They know ideas are easy. Execution is what separates dreams from reality. That's why they stay disciplined even when no one's watching. That's why they trust their own work more than any outside motivation. This is what makes them solid. They don't need constant encouragement because they've taught themselves to follow through without it. They don't rely on pep talks or validation. They just move, build, and deliver. Quietly and consistently, In a world full of talkers, the Sigma is a doer. And that's what sets him apart. When people start speaking, he listens with caution, but when someone acts, he pays attention, because to him, action is the only truth. Number 3, they know some people only come to watch you sink. Sigma males learned the hard way that not every "how are you" is rooted in care. Sometimes people ask just to measure how far you've fallen. It's not concern, it's curiosity disguised as compassion. They're not worried about you, they're entertained by your struggle. And once you spot it, you can't unsee it. The tone that's a little too cheerful when you're down, the subtle satisfaction hiding behind their "just checking in." Sigmas don't ignore these signs, they log them quietly, not out of paranoia, but clarity. They know the difference between real support and performative interest, and they refuse to be anyone's soap opera, so they pull back, not out of pride, but protection. If someone's only around when the drama spikes, they let them watch from a distance. No more private access, no more front row seats to their healing, growth, or downfall. Because Sigma males understand something most don't. Not every listener is safe. This is why they isolate, but not to hide. They isolate to focus, to clean house emotionally, to rebuild without background noise. When you've had people smile while you were sinking, you become very selective about who's allowed to be near you while you rise. And that isolation, that silence, it's not weakness, it's elevation, it's pruning. It's the part of the journey no one claps for because it's invisible. But it's also the part that makes their comeback unshakable. Sigmas don't block people to prove a point. They outgrow them by doing the work no one sees. The real flex isn't posting revenge success, it's becoming so untouchable, even the ones who hoped you'd sink can't find where to throw their shade anymore. They don't share their lows with just anyone because they know some people aren't hoping you float. They're hoping you drown, and they want a good view. Number 4, they've accepted the world owes them nothing. Sigma males don't waste energy expecting life to be fair. They let go of that illusion early on. They've been through enough to understand that the world doesn't hand out rewards just because you worked hard or had good intentions. People don't always say thank you. Good behavior doesn't always bring good outcomes, and sometimes you do everything right and still get nothing. That truth, it doesn't break them, it builds them. They no longer sit around asking, "Why did this happen to me?" or "When will it get better?" They've asked those questions before, but after a while they stop looking for answers from outside. Now they look inward. They focus on what they can control and let the rest burn without blinking. This is where the Sigma male becomes a different breed. While most people are waiting for a breakthrough or for someone to hand them a chance, the Sigma builds quietly in the background. He's not loud about his moves, but everything he does is intentional. He's done looking for fairness. He's here to create results with or without approval, support, or praise. This kind of mindset makes him steady when things fall apart. He doesn't panic. He doesn't beg for mercy. He adapts, he plots, he finds a way. Because when you stop believing the world owes you anything, you stop giving it control over your emotions. You don't take disappointment personally. You don't view rejection as a sign to quit. You just keep going. And that's what makes the Sigma so powerful. He's not angry at the world. He's just done depending on it. Every step he takes is rooted in that quiet understanding that nothing is promised. Everything must be earned. And if no one's handing it to him, he'll figure out how to take it without asking. That's not bitterness. That's freedom. Number 5, they build mental armor from every betrayal. When most people get betrayed, they either break or shut down. But Sigma males do something different. They pay attention. Every lie, every fake apology, every time someone showed their true colors, it wasn't just pain for them, it was training, a lesson, a signal to sharpen their instincts and trust their gut a little more next time. They don't walk around bitter or angry, they just grow smarter, quieter, more precise. Because once you've seen how easily people can switch up, you stop getting surprised. You stop giving too many chances, and you start building something inside you that no one can touch. Mental armor. This isn't about becoming numb or refusing to feel. The Sigma male still feels everything, but he no longer lets those emotions control his moves. He doesn't react out of pain. He studies it, learns from it, uses it. That's how he becomes more focused, more aware, more impossible to fool the next time around. Most people fear betrayal. Sigma males don't, not because they enjoy it, but because they've already lived through it. They know how to stand back up, They know how to read between the lines, and now they carry those lessons everywhere they go. Not as baggage, but as armor. This is why it's hard to manipulate a Sigma. He's seen too much, he's read too many people. And if you betray him, he won't chase you or beg for closure. He'll remember, adjust, and keep moving, stronger, sharper, more focused than before, because betrayal didn't break him, it taught him. It carved out a version of him that doesn't need anyone to validate his worth. And that version, that's the one you don't want to underestimate. Number 6, they see support systems as temporary perks, not guarantees. Sigma males move through life with a different kind of wiring. They don't count on backup. Don't plan with the assumption that someone will catch them if they fall. To them, support is something you acknowledge if it shows up, not something you expect or demand. This doesn't mean they reject help. If someone shows up for them, they'll notice, they'll appreciate it. But they don't build their life around the hope people will be there, because experience taught them something most people avoid learning. Even the most loyal person can change, even the closest connection can fade, and even family can fall short when it matters most. So they've trained themselves to stand on their own, mentally and emotionally. They build their own safety net, even when others promise to be that for them. Not because they're paranoid, but because they're prepared. They understand that life is unpredictable and that no one owes them constant support. That mindset gives them a quiet kind of power. They're not easily shaken when people flake. They don't crumble when a friend goes silent. They don't spiral when they're forced to face something alone. They've been doing that for a while. For Sigma males, loyalty is respected, but it's never assumed. They don't test people or set traps to prove a point. They just live in reality. If you're there, good. If you're not, they move forward anyway. No guilt, no grudges. That independence isn't cold, it's clarity. They've stopped attaching their stability to anyone else's presence. And that's what makes them solid. They may appreciate a support system, but they never depend on one. Because when the dust settles, they know the only person who's guaranteed to show up for them is themselves. Number 7. They can't be guilt-tripped into dependency. Sigma males have heard it all before. You're too distant. Why don't you ask for help? You always act like you don't need anyone. At first, those comments might have caused doubt. They wondered if maybe they should open up more. But then life happened. They watched the same people who pushed for closeness disappear when things got tough. That's when it clicked. Most people don't offer help. They offer control dressed as concern. They want access, not connection. They want you to lean on them just enough so they feel important, but not so much that it becomes real responsibility. And when you don't play along, they call you cold. They call you arrogant. But the Sigma male doesn't flinch. He's not going to fake weakness just to make someone else feel needed. He doesn't view independence as an insult. He sees it as protection, not from love or support, but from manipulation dressed as loyalty. People have tried to shame him into depending on them. They said his self-reliance was selfish, that his ability to stand alone was pride. But what they were really saying was, we can't handle your strength. And when he didn't fold, when he kept moving without needing them, their concern turned into quiet resentment. What they don't understand is that the Sigma's distance isn't about ego. It's about survival. He's been through too much to gamble his peace on unreliable support. He knows what it feels like to be abandoned in a room full of people who claim to care. That's why he keeps a respectful distance. Not to push people away, but to protect what he built when no one else showed up. So no, you can't guilt-trip a Sigma into leaning on you. He already learned how to stand when no one offered a hand. And once you've built yourself from the ground up, you don't apologize for being solid. Number 8. They grieve alone, then rise quietly. When a Sigma male is hurting, you won't see it. Not because he doesn't feel it, he feels it deeply. But he's never been the type to broadcast his pain. He doesn't perform sorrow for sympathy, and he doesn't use heartbreak as a stage. While the world is busy oversharing, posting cryptic captions and chasing comfort in comment sections, he's somewhere quiet, figuring it out alone. His pain doesn't need an audience, it needs space, time, silence. He disappears, not to be dramatic, but to protect what he's processing. He takes his grief like a warrior takes a wound, not as something to flaunt, but as something to treat carefully on his own terms. He doesn't call 10 people to talk through it. He doesn't explain himself to anyone who didn't already notice. He goes inward. That's where the real healing begins. Not in the noise, not in the scrolling, not in the endless explaining, in solitude, in brutal honesty with himself, in facing the full weight of what hurt him without filters or distractions. Then, when the storm has passed, he comes back. No announcement, no reinvention arc for public display. Just sharper, calmer, more composed, maybe a little quieter, maybe a little colder, but never broken. That's the Sigma way. He grieves off-grid and grows off-camera. He trusts the silence more than the crowd. And when he rises, it's not to prove a point, it's because he's already done the work where no one could see. You'll never witness the breakdown, but you'll feel the transformation. And by then he'll already be 3 steps ahead. Stronger, wiser, and still standing. Number 9. They're not waiting, they're executing. Most people spend their lives waiting for the right mood, waiting for motivation, waiting for someone to show up and say, now is the time. But Sigma males, they don't live like that. They know that if they sit around waiting for perfect, they'll be stuck in the same place forever. They don't need all the answers to take the first step. They don't need a cheering squad, a sunny day, or some magical green light. They move when others hesitate. They act while others talk. And they push through even when it's messy, unclear, or lonely. There's no dramatic build-up, no overthinking, just execution. Quiet, consistent, and often unnoticed, until the results speak for themselves. People confuse that drive with impatience, but it's not. It's clarity. Sigmas aren't in a rush, they're just done with the fantasy that there's going to be a perfect moment to begin. Life has already shown them how fast things can change, how quickly chances disappear, and how rare it is to get a second shot. So they move, tired, sure. Discouraged sometimes, absolutely, but still moving. They don't broadcast what they're building, they just build. They don't over-explain why they're doing what they're doing. They just do it. And while others waste time waiting for stars to align, the Sigma has already made progress that no one saw coming. Their work isn't loud, but it's real. And that's what makes them dangerous in the best way. You won't hear them coming, but one day, you'll see exactly what they've been quietly grinding toward. Because they were never waiting for the right time, they were creating it. That's the Sigma way. Execution over excuses, results over noise, movement over perfection. And by the time others finally decide to start, the Sigma has already built something worth protecting. Number 10, they don't crave sympathy, they crave mastery. Sigma males don't go around looking for sympathy. They don't unload their pain just to hear someone say, that must be so hard. That kind of comfort doesn't move them. It might feel nice in the moment, but it doesn't fix anything. And Sigmas are not wired for emotional handouts. They're wired to solve, to understand, to master. When life punches them in the gut, they don't start gathering an audience. They go inward, they sit in the pain, they examine it, they ask what it's trying to teach them, and then they get to work, not to feel better, but to become better. That's what separates them. They're not trying to win pity. They're trying to win control over themselves. Because they know that when the world gets unpredictable, the only thing they can truly command is their own response. So while others are chasing validation, Sigmas are busy sharpening their discipline. They don't care if you clap for them. They don't need your soft looks or sympathetic words. What they want is personal precision. They want to understand their flaws, face their fears, and train their mind until even their emotions start to obey. That's not cold, that's power. See, for them, strength isn't a show, it's a standard. Control isn't about pretending nothing hurts. It's about being hurt and still choosing how to move, still choosing direction, still choosing discipline over drama. This is why they're often misunderstood, because they'll bleed in silence while the crowd cheers for someone who cries louder. But in the end, they walk out of the fire stronger, leaner, and more focused, without needing a standing ovation. That's the Sigma mindset. Less comfort, more clarity, less noise, more mastery. They don't need to be seen breaking down to prove they're human. They'd rather rebuild quietly and come back with unmatched control. Number 11, they prepare for disappointment like it's a weather forecast. Sigma males don't walk around expecting sunshine. They've seen enough to know that storms come without warning. People forget, promises fall flat, and plans change. So they stopped waiting for loyalty to feel like a guarantee. They stopped gambling their peace on how others might show up. They plan for disappointment the way most people check the weather. Not with fear, but with awareness. They don't get caught off guard when someone flakes, when help falls through, or when support dries up. They already factored it in. If people show up, that's great. But if they don't, that's exactly what they prepared for. This mindset doesn't come from bitterness. It comes from observation. They've watched the patterns, how people show up when it's convenient, how interest fades when things get hard. They took notes, not grudges. And now they build their world in a way that doesn't collapse when someone bails. You won't find a Sigma male caught in emotional freefall just because someone let them down. They've already played out the worst-case scenario in their head and made peace with it. That's why they move differently. Quiet, steady, unshaken. They don't run around collecting backup plans out of paranoia. They do it out of strategy. Because they know emotional survival isn't about expecting everyone to stay. It's about being solid when they don't. And this quiet realism, it makes them emotionally bulletproof. Not cold, not distant, just prepared. They've been through enough to understand that life doesn't always come through for you. But that doesn't mean you don't come through for yourself. So while others are devastated by disappointment, the Sigma male nods, adjusts, and keeps going. No drama, no collapse, just relentless forward motion. Because they never needed perfect conditions to stay standing. They just needed to expect the storm and walk straight through it. In final words, the sooner you stop waiting to be saved, the sooner you become something unstoppable. Being a Sigma male isn't about labels or image. It's about owning your reality with both hands, no matter how heavy it gets. It's about standing your ground when no one claps for you, when no one offers a safety rope, and when the only voice pushing you forward is your own. Sigma's figured out something most people avoid their whole lives. Nobody's coming. No mentor, no perfect partner, no lucky break is going to magically fix things. And instead of resenting that truth, they embraced it. Because there's power in knowing that the only person you truly need is already in the mirror. This kind of mindset doesn't come from comfort. It comes from pain, from betrayal, from learning the hard way that support is temporary and pity is poison. But instead of folding, Sigmas refined themselves. They turned the silence into fuel. They made independence a craft. They built a life not on applause, but on precision, clarity, and purpose. If you're that kind of man, the one who stays quiet but relentless, the one who doesn't break when others disappear, the one who keeps building even when no one believes, you are not broken. You are not lost. You are simply rare. So don't waste energy trying to be understood. Don't soften your edge to make others more comfortable. Keep sharpening your vision. Keep trusting your process. Because the truth is, the world doesn't reward the ones who wait. It moves for the ones who act. And Sigmas don't wait to be saved. They learn, they adjust, and they rise. Alone if they have to, but always moving forward. And that's what makes them dangerous. That's what makes them unforgettable. Thank you for watching, gents, and God bless you.